from the approval, should we start over? No, the
No, I don't
approval
think
of the
so.
minutes is actually being from June 10th and 8th, which was done on the 9th, is being done now, should you so wish. So the only issue, I think the votes taken, if I'm correct, were to on whether or not to accept the agenda.
Correct. The point is, I'm trying to make it clear and put on the record that we did not have a quorum. Point blank.
That will be on the record here, and if you choose to
Right.
not have accepted those agendas. I don't know if you can accept the
No.
minutes, but
Without the acceptance of those agendas, there is no
I just want
possibility
to
of accepting. those
amend the
minutes.
minutes, and the only way to amend the minutes of those two meetings is how?
the only way
To suggest that we strike those from the minutes and then we vote on the amended minutes. And I accept the agenda,
okay,
okay?
is that what you're?
That's number one, but I would also ask for clarification on this concept of we are redoing September 9th. What does that actually mean? Could you please explain what we are going to do this evening if we were told we are redoing with the same agenda what was on September 9th, although the agenda that's in our packet is slightly different, the agenda of September 9th. Words matter, process matters. I'd like clarification on the definition of a redo of September 9th and what is the expectation for this evening's meeting.
Okay, so there's a couple of things, so because the public did not have full access last time, that we, in order to cure that, we're having this special meeting. So we are going to have the discussion again that we had last time. Obviously, that meeting existed and people heard and were present, so I think legally it is considered having been voided, but the words were spoken and heard. So we can move forward with the listening session at this time. There is also, we have an updated agenda this time that talks about, I think, the parades and the future meetings. So those would be the only two changes that have now been put on today. We can't have it updated the September one, you've updated this one. Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, let's go forward then.
Thank you. And we don't have to take a vote on that.
Okay, was there a second to the motion?
And yes, we did. We had a
I
first by Rinke and a second by Rims. All those in favor?
So I can clarify, that was to accept the
This
agenda,
agenda.
and then Vice Chair Vignolo made a motion.
No, he had a question. He didn't
I
make
had
a
a
motion.
question.
That was a question.
Never
You
mind.
phrased it as a question. You did
I
not
did,
raise it
yeah.
as a motion.
Okay,
Go ahead, we'll move forward.
Okay.
we're
So,
ready for a vote then.
so we're gonna have to vote on accepting this agenda. And since we had the discussion, those in favor, raise your hand, and say aye. So it can be recorded.
Any noes?
Commissioner Miolo, are you for
I'll
accepting this
abstain.
agenda or
I'm not
against
gonna
it?
vote on this item, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And because of that, then the discussion of the approval of minutes, it's from the previous meetings, it would be moved, right? And we can move.
This one includes, this current meeting includes approval of June 10th, 8th, and September 9th,
Yes.
which you cannot do or do.
So we're moving to item 5.
So I think we're moving to item 5, which is the approval of those minutes. And do I have a motion to approve those minutes? No motion to approve those minutes? It's a procedural question.
I make a motion to approve them,
Okay,
but
so
that's for discussion. What does that mean again, if we are short a, does that change the motion to accept those minutes?
you have a quorum now, so you can choose to accept them. Those meetings did not mean it, but the meetings could still be, according to the city attorney, the minutes can still be entered into the public record.
Thank you.
So
But I
you
think
move
the-
to,
I move
I would
to-
suggest that the minutes of, particularly of July 8th, and September 9th, have to reflect that the motions, although they were taken, were null and void.
So your suggestion is to update the minutes to include that the.
To make it clear that
okay,
they were null and void, they were not valid
Okay,
votes, there
that's a
was no
simple way.
quorum, period.
okay. So Commissioner Rinke, you still hold your motion to approve the minutes?
I do.
And do I
As
have,
amended.
do I have, as amended, do I have a second?
I second.
Commissioner Reynolds seconds. Any further discussion on this point? Those in favor, raise your hand, say aye, for the record. Okay,
Right.
minutes adopted, thank you so much. Item 6. I don't have any comments. So we're gonna move right into public comments, item 7. And staff liaison can call people to provide public commentary.
We'll start with our individuals that are present and then we'll move to our online individuals. So
Mhm.
first I have Doug Evans.
Mr. Evans, comment? Okay. As Mr. Evans moves into the microphone. This time has been set aside for members of the public to address the matter jurisdiction of the commission. To Human Rights Commission on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. Although the commission values your comments, pursuant to the Burnham Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed or posted on the agenda. You have 3 minutes as assigned as a speaker. Please state your name for the record. Open your microphone, please. Thanks.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Doug Evans. I've been active with the Human Rights Commission for quite some time with regards to actions that the commission took. First and foremost, I'm passing around a copy of an article that was in the Desert Sun. Has to do with the initial Human Relations Committee or Commission or Committee, I forget which one it was, that was developed and implemented in the 60s. The purpose of that commission was to take a look at Section 14, to take a look at human rights issues throughout the city. And that commission involved one of the most famous Jewish rabbis in town, one of the most famous Black ministers in town, a tribal council, tribal chair member, and other members of the community. That commission looked at Section 14. One of their tasks was to evaluate all complaints that the eviction notices issued by others, either the Bureau of Indian Affairs, tribal members, or conservators, were done correctly before the city participated in removal of structures. And the city had a very detailed process that is documented on the city's website as to what they did. Facts matter. Facts should be absolutely paramount for the Human Rights Commission. In the early 2020s, facts did not matter with this commission. The facts, thankfully, we believe are being investigated by the city. We appreciate what the city did in posting material that they found. And we hope to see a report about the historic context of Section 14 sometime in the near future. 2 major issues have confronted the Human Rights Commission in the past few years. One is the monument report that I've referenced. I've spoken to you before about it, and I won't spend much time. It was advocated by council members. It was advocated by past council members. And to be honest with you, for all appearances, it looked like it was really pushed upon the Human Rights Commission in a very awkward fashion. All of the contrary information was just dismissed by the Human Rights Commission. This commission has voted twice to put it back on your agenda and has been told you can't do that. That's unfortunate. The other one is another council initiated issue where a council member proposed an award that turned sideways.
Mr.
with the
Evans, your
commission.
3 minutes.
All right, thank you very much. Lessons learned, be cautious when political items show up on your agenda or walk into your room. And be willing to say, no, this isn't right.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
your
Evans.
role. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Mr. Evans, for your public testimony.
Thank you for your time.
Who's next?
Mr. Abraham Ishak.
Doctor, please, your name for the public record.
Abraham Isaac. I'm here to express my strong support for keeping the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission. I believe we can revamp the commission to better serve our city in a modern era. Our way to achieve this is by using AI to help update the ordinance, ensuring it's aligned with other cities and reflective of the current human rights landscape. AI can assist in comparing our policies with best practices from across the state and country, streamlining the revision process, less work and stress for everyone. In terms of programs, I think it's time to reconsider the community service awards. Perhaps we can retire them or shift the focus towards recognizing the contributions of young adults, encouraging the next generation to engage with human rights issues in our city. Maybe we can provide scholarships. Going forward, the city council needs to leverage this commission more. It plays a vital role in promoting equity and inclusion, which the city council is having a lot of trouble with, and it deserves our commitment. To ensure transparency and legal compliance, the deputy city manager should be held accountable for overseeing the commission's adherence to the Brown Act. Additionally, all commission members should undergo mandatory Brown Act training at the start of their terms. This will help prevent future violations and ensure the commission operates effectively. By modernizing and reinforcing the commission's purpose, we can make it a stronger asset to the community.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
All right, I don't have any further in-person cards, so we'll move to people that are online. So what I need to figure out here is if we can raise our hands. Anyone online, if you're interested in getting public comment, if you could use the feature and raise your hand, I'll be able to unmute you. Hey, Mr. Weissman, we will go ahead and unmute Mr. Weissman first. So you are unmuted, sir.
Yes. Thank you. We are deeply concerned about the direction the city has taken relative to this pausing of the HRC under the guise of a planning effort. We're deeply concerned that volunteers give their time, their effort, expertise, particularly as commissioners, and then find themselves treated disrespectfully. Let's be frank here. This is not about long-term planning or rebranding. When organizations plan and brand themselves, rebrand themselves, they don't shut themselves down. They do this concurrently, not in lieu of. And the notion that somehow this is all because of a violation of the Brown Act is equally absurd, as we will note that there have been numbers of violations of the Brown Act that have occurred subsequent to the pausing effort on behalf of the city. So what's this really about? Well, it's about three things. One, there is a city council person whose friend was not given an HRC award, and that city council person has decided to apparently take retribution. That is not appropriate role for a city council person. That is not an appropriate role for the city council, nor for the HRC. Number two, another city council person apparently had a meltdown in a closed-door council session, which was not agendized, which is unauthorized, and which does violate the Brown Act, because a particular person was being nominated to be a commissioner, and that particular council person did not want that person nominated because that person had run against that council person in a last election. These kinds of activities are personal, they are political, and they have no room in deciding the direction of the HRC. We have to ask those two council people to recuse themselves, one of whom currently is sitting on this subcommittee, because they cannot allow their personal and their own political vendettas and views to be to play a role in how the HRC is managed. The third piece is the city is within its right and purview to simply redirect the HRC in whatever area it so desires. And the city should simply sit down, write up a new document, determine the role they want the HRC to play, present that for public comment, present it to comment for the HRC commissioners, and move on. But it's time clearly to end this charade, to end these listening sessions, and to let the HRC do its business. I mean, that's what a democratic government should look like. Open, honest, serving the people, and not serving personal or political agendas of government officials, but behaving in a transparent way. And it's time to make that happen. We've waited long enough and seen this go on long enough to know that it's time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rich Wiseman. We have other people with their hands up.
Mhm.
All right, next we will go to Philip Hodges.
Go ahead, Philip.
Great, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I really didn't want to be here today, but I want to direct my comments to the commissioners themselves. First, thank you for your time and your dedication. Volunteers like you are the backbone of this city, bringing experience, professionalism, and a passion for human rights. You've shown incredible patience through this very frustrating process, and we, the public, appreciate your service. Please know that. It's been frustrating to watch you blocked from taking action and stuck in endless listening sessions that aren't going anywhere. We've heard you ask over and over what you did wrong and how to fix it, but all you've gotten are vague answers and deflections. The fact that you're still here pushing through, and you do have a quorum today, shows your dedication. Rich said this well, but the council's explanations they've given you don't add up. Updating ordinances or strategic planning doesn't require shutting down a commission. And citing a Brown Act violation doesn't justify this extreme response either, especially since, as we know, these violations appear to be very commonplace at City Hall. You had one last week. There was one in closed session on June 13th. Public records, which the city attorney has forbidden you from discussing, make the reasons from the shutdown very clear. One, retaliation. Christy Holstage shut you down because you didn't give her nominee an award. Two, personal vendettas. 2 council members are trying to block my husband, Scott Nevins, from joining this commission based on their personal dislikes. This seems to have also created another Brown Act violation. 3, the city wants to limit your involvement in controversial issues, and that is their right to do. So those first 2 are petty, personal abuses of power, a growing pattern with this council, especially with Council Member Holstage. It is no wonder they won't be honest about it with you. They're embarrassed, and they should be. As for the third, redefining your role doesn't require shutting you down. The council should reinstate the HRC right now, or fast track any ordinance changes that they need to make and give you a clear timeline. If they don't, I urge you to take control of today's meeting. Press Jeffrey and Grace for real answers. Don't let them control the conversation. And if they refuse to answer, let that be clear for the public to see. Finally, it's sad to think that what you've been through, this experience, if others are watching, will discourage many others from volunteering on commissions. You deserve so much better treatment, yet despite everything, you're still here, giving your time and energy to the city. Well done, you're better than me. Thank you for your commitment. I hope the council finally treats you with the respect that you've earned. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. And we have JD Home. Go ahead, JD.
Hey, how are you? I don't get involved. I don't get involved in things. And I've got to say, I think that I'm actually speaking tonight because I think I represent most of Palm Springs to say that, you know, we may not be rising up and speaking out about issues, but we see what's going on, and what's going on is not right. I would personally like to thank everyone who serves on the commission, especially I know some of you have gone through really horrible, trying times and have been facing this abuse during those horrible, trying times. So I just want anyone who is attempting to use this committee for their own political vengeance, to vendettas, whatever, to realize that the city as the whole sees you and sees what's going on. Just because we're not, making a speech every day, we see what's going on and we will remember election time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie, for your testimony. Is that the end? Do we have more?
I do not have any further hands raised to speak, so that would
Okay.
conclude public comment.
Okay, great. Item 8 on the
Just a
agenda.
moment, point of order. I'd like to exercise my right as a member of this commission to respond briefly to the public testimony. I believe that's permitted by the Brown Act. Thank you. So I would like to acknowledge the public's comments, particularly those of Mr. Weissman, Mr. Hodges, and Mr. Horn, and thank them for stepping forward and giving us their perspective. I would urge my fellow commissioners to take what they said to heart. And if we do not establish a specific project timeline in the next few minutes, I'm going to introduce, as I did in September 10th, a motion to adjourn this meeting until January 10, 2025, when we have a new council in place, and we will start over. And I am tired of the listening sessions, just like those gentlemen expressed their displeasure with these endless listening sessions. It's time for this commission to be allowed to get back to work, back to normal business. That includes elections of officers, that includes much more than marching in parades. And I have had it, and I will not remain on this commission if we don't get back to normal business. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Item 8 on the agenda is new business, we have none. And then obviously is item 9, where I'm gonna hand over the microphone to Mayor Jeffrey Bernstein and Council Member Grace Gardner to lead this part.
Chair, thank you, Chair Loyola. So, I do, want to thank all the commissioners for serving, and we have done this before, and you volunteer, and the city works much better because of all the volunteers on this commission and other commissions. And I realize that this has been a difficult process. It is not often that we change a complete commission, we change a commission's direction. However, we have had some terrific input from, I think, all of the commissioners. I have not heard from, I know, in public, I don't know if anybody else wants to speak. I believe that based upon the input we've gotten so far, I do have a plan to move forward, and I respect that we don't want this to go on forever. And I respect all the comments from both the public and from Vice Chairman Yola. What I would suggest is that I have thought about this a great deal and read the comments I've seen in here. I've watched the meetings before. I think there is some really good advice here. I'm going to ask whether, before I just make forward with my recommendation, if people have other ideas on what they would like to see the commission be. I know that Chair Loyola was not here last time, and I know that Commissioner Remus was not here last time, so I would like to ask them if they wanted to add any more, or any of the other commissioners, before we move forward with what we have a recommendation to do.
Bobby, my comments are very brief. You wanna state anything
I
for the
believe-
record,
I believe it was stated before, is to be more specific with regards to what specific parameters that you would like us to go into moving further, that's not already stated in the code. The code to me is very specific. Of course, it could be more defined, but I think it's fine just as is. But if you want to have it more specific, so that way people have more clarity and more direction, that's fine too.
Thank you so much, Bobby. So mine, I was very specific about my strategic recommendation to council. I wrote a very simple 2-page document that talks about shifting from human rights to human services. The fabric of the city has changed tremendously, and the charter of this commission, which was established 33 years ago, has not. I believe that as we are able to move the charter of the commission and not do this a branding exercise, because this is not about marketing. It really is about the charter of the working group of people that come together. Should be in line with human services. Many other cities, including those many cities in California, have a human services department. I think there's a great number of opportunities where this working group can get together to come up with some really creative ideas and suggestions and recommendations for the council, where we can focus on things like our residents and the quality of life and compassionate and effective services, access to those services, and empowerment of people. Having lived through many years of taking care of my elder partner who passed away recently for he's dealing with dementia, Alzheimer's, and all of that, has really given me the opportunity to live personally through a lot of the hard processes that one has to go through to get access to services. And fortunate for all of us, many of these services are already available at the county level, but we don't know about these things. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to work with city staff and with city council and use this as a think tank to connect the dots and to allow people in Palm Springs to understand that there's access to a lot of human services and help them navigate through the process, because it's not easy. It's very, very challenging. So I can tell you that firsthand. So my recommendation is not of a rebranding, but a change in the charter of this group, in a shifting of the mind, moving from human rights to human services. Thank you.
I have a comment to make. I agree, having done quite a bit of research across the different cities in Southern California as well as Northern California. And Human Service Commission is really the new title because it describes a function for the Human Rights Committee. But I think, from my opinion, that it should be more than care navigation. It has to be more. There's lots of services out there, I'm in healthcare, that will allow people of the community who are in need of healthcare related services, home health, do exist. I'm really proposing that the commission would move into a more functional status, such as perhaps reviewing the funding that the city government gives different nonprofits, and then we could have some kind of a review function to be sure that it's consistent with the human rights charter and our human rights code. So it wouldn't necessarily, it wouldn't be a bottleneck necessarily, but it's another level of review in ensuring that this funding, that these finances go for the betterment of the community and enrichment of human rights.
Thank you. Any comments? Vice Chair Bernardo, did you want?
Yeah, I would like to first acknowledge Commissioner Ranke's comments. I think that is great. I think you've hit on something that we could certainly incorporate into the mission of the Human Rights Commission or Human Services Commission, or whatever name or label the City Council wants to give us. I also acknowledge Commissioner Remus. I think his point is very well taken. Tonight is what I believe our fourth listening session regarding future work on this commission, since the council's decision on June 13th to pause the work of this commission and delay any further appointments to fill its 2 vacancies. I think that needs to be rectified. As many of you know, the action was taken in response to the request by Councilmember Holstage during agenda development at the regular meeting of the City Council on May 23rd, at which there were suggestions of possible violations of the Brown Act by current commissioners. I'd like to remind this commission that no commissioners were ever contacted, even though this body had already taken actions in February to rectify any unintentional violations by its previous executive committee. The May 23rd meeting, Councilmember Holstage requested a code of conduct be applied to, and I quote, all members of boards, committees, and commissions. Great idea, but then seemed to single out only this commission for a hiatus, during which it would be rebranded and its role, scope, and authority would be looked at. I still have no idea what's wrong with our commission. It has never been specifically stated. Fortunately, this body was not afforded an opportunity to make council aware that we had already begun to look at ways its roles, responsibilities, and mission could be clarified, and how chapter 2.45 of the municipal code could be updated. All which we all acknowledged would be submitted to the city attorney and council for their review and approval. Several of you mentioned our work during previous listening sessions. This commission has also begun extensive work to draft recommendations for council's review and approval to strengthen and address the process for soliciting, vetting, and recommending individuals and organizations for future community service awards. Did you ask for that? No. I still believe that if the council had been made aware of our work and our commitment to ensuring that our work would reflect the values and priorities of the council, the majority of the council would have directed the city manager, city staff, and the city attorney to work with us and support our work to improve its processes while continuing to promote and protect the diversity of our community and improve human relations through education and community awareness. So I look forward to Mayor Bernstein's explanation or specific policy recommendations of where we're going to go and a timeline for how we're going to get there in the next few minutes. So I'll turn this over to Mayor Bernstein.
Okay, I do, thank you, I appreciate it. I'm not sure whether the word rebranding, I think it's a reworking of the ordinance, which, you know, is a timely, it takes time to do it. I think the input that we have gotten, and I know even that I've had in other conversations, the last gathering, which was an official meeting, was extremely useful. And this group is going to end up, I believe, having redirected a whole commission, which that has not been defined since 1994, I think, which I don't know if that was the first time since it was first founded in the 60s. These take periods of time to do it. What I will say is very much along the lines of what Chair Loyola put as a Human Services Committee and Commissioner Linke. I believe that this is what the Human Rights Commission should be changed to a Human Services Commission. I think it should be, the comments that I've heard from several are advising, are directing our community to understand what services are out there, at the same time to be able to support our existing nonprofits in getting their work and seeing where we can help them. The funding is a little bit of, I think there's ways to do this. The funding for our nonprofits and boards and commissions, for the most part, grants and sponsorships has been taken out of council as well. It is entirely a staff process. However, I will tell you, for instance, we have an arts and culture group that meets small nonprofits, and we directed them on how to learn about city grants and sponsorships, many of which applied and got it, as well as state and other types of grants and sponsorships without. I believe this group could be instrumental. There's a lot of nonprofits in our city. I met with one this week actually, that to be honest, I didn't know about. And they're providing a great free service to our residents. That would be helpful for them. This is I just explained it. PS Test, which does a free testing, STD testing service. They are a small operation. I don't think a lot of people know about it. They're one of only a couple free testing services out there. They would also like to get their work known in case they can get other support. And we hear from a lot of our nonprofits, even our arts and culture, which do a lot of work with kids and things like that. So I believe that we have the basis here, based upon this input now, and I should let Councilmember Garner speak, because I've talked the whole time. But I believe, in terms of timeline, that we have enough information here that what would happen is, in terms of timing. Tomorrow's our council meeting? Tomorrow is our council meeting. The process, the way it would have to work, if Councilmember Garner agrees, we could request a future agenda item for council to discuss a proposed change to the ordinance. I would say that should be on November 14th, as I will unfortunately be out of the country on the next meeting in October. At that point, we would direct, assuming council agrees, the city attorney to draft the new ordinance, which then comes back to council for 2 readings to be adopted. So that is the timeline that we would like to do. I think there has to be a full council discussion for changing the ordinance. And then the city attorney is here, I should mention, so we can also discuss the process and timing for how to get that into a new ordinance. Do you want to say anything, Councilman Garner?
Sure, thank you. Appreciate that. So as we've been meeting and talking about this stuff, the last meeting that we did have, despite it not being a formal meeting, was very, very useful. And the one thing that I heard over and over again was that there were not good procedures in place. And so many people mentioned that it was difficult to get things done, that there was confusion about how to get things done. And so that's the other part of this, right? Is making sure that this is actually going to be effective, that the work that you're doing is meaningful, not just for the community, but for yourselves. And this is something that we've heard over and over again from the Human Rights Commission specifically, but also from other commissions, which is why we've been trying to address this in a more robust way across the board. But I think this commission was the one where we were hearing the most frustration. And we were hearing people leave the commission and say, why are you leaving the commission? They don't do anything. We don't get to do anything. There's not enough here. So this entire shift is to make sure that we are having a robust Human Services Commission. You know, we're getting history about the commission today from Doug Evans. And it sounds like it had been something that was very effective at the time, and there have been periods of time where people have felt that the commission was extremely effective. Let's make sure that you feel that way now. This is something that you can be proud of. So I'm really supportive of what Mayor Bernstein said to discuss this. And I think that it is time for us to move forward, and it shouldn't be delayed further. And that's partly because of the comments that we've heard in these last couple of sessions. Because it is clear that you all know what you want and that you're making good recommendations to us. So let's move forward. Let's have an open discussion at the next, the November 14th council meeting. Then if we can get it on the agenda this year, great. If that's not possible, because obviously staff has to do additional work and has other items, then it'll be the top of the year. And then we have a process going forward.
Yeah. I'd like to add just one more comment, and then having a way that we do, this commission reports into the city council. I mean, it was sort of like we were a stepchild in the past. We couldn't even get the attention of city council members, invited a number of them to come and present, and they hadn't. So I think part of the ordinance, or how we rebuild, is that we do have a pipeline into the city council and a back and forth type of a communication channel.
Yeah, I think that is a very good idea, and then perhaps we did start an annual presentation method, but maybe there's another option to present to council. And we have not had formal council liaisons to every commission, but we have had main points of contact, and that is something though, but potentially could be done specifically different for the Human Services one as well. And especially as you're starting to get into a new ordinance, you might need a little bit more support and help from council and staff at that point. And we did also, I should mention, Commissioner Horn, who's not here. He was very much talking about previously the support of the nonprofits in the area and helping to get their word out and helping to see where this commission can actually help support them. So I think that also has come up. I don't know if people are in agreement on this. I think I would like to have people, yes.
I appreciate what you said, and so my first reaction is. Well, my first question to you, Mayor and council members, will this commission have an opportunity to review the draft changes that you're, right now seem like they're conceptual, but until they're put on paper, will we have an opportunity to see what changes are being made to the municipal code that defines our mission? Or will that just go right to the council for discussion and vote?
If I can just, the city attorney and council, correct me if I'm wrong, I understand it, but the process is we have to request this as an agenda item for November 14th. At which time there would be a staff report basically on doing without the ordinance itself, that would allow for discussion of the entire council and public input at that point. And then we would then give direction to the city attorney and staff to write that ordinance, at which point that would, the draft, you can explain that, how that draft.
Yeah, and it really depends on whether the council requests staff from the city attorney's office to have the ordinance make a stop at this commission at some point, either before it comes to first reading or after first reading, after the council has had a chance to weigh in on it. The commission, if the commission has a preference, it might be a good idea for the commission as part of this recommendation to let the council know what its preference is. I'll point out that in between first reading and second reading, if substantive changes are made to the ordinance, it requires another first reading and then the second reading. So if the commission wants to make things move a little bit faster, it might be better if the commission wants to weigh in to do that before the first reading.
So that is a choice to make, but that is actual process that has to go through.
So do we have to agendize that to a future commission meeting? And at what point will this occur?
So here's the process that has to happen first. So tomorrow night, we have to make a recommendation to council that we add this to November 14th. Our practice is that there needs to be majority council support to do that. And so once that is done, it will be put on the November 14th agenda. And which then staff report would come out approximately a week before. You currently have a meeting right now that is scheduled for Veterans Day that we can discuss doing a special meeting on a different day. You could do that before, so you have time to see the staff report and comment. That's not the ordinance. You'll see the staff report. Then it would go into the council discussion because that will run out of occurred yet on November 14th. At which point we would then direct comments to the city attorney to draft the ordinance. At that point, if it would be after your November meeting when the draft ordinance would come, and you could present it to this, we could have this group review it do you have a December meeting?
We can.
You can.
We don't have it.
You don't normally, but you could, I mean, depending on
It's
when
on
the
the
draft
calendar.
ordinance is ready, and then review it, and, we welcome the input. I will tell you, I honestly wasn't exactly sure where this commission should go, and the input that we have gotten, I think, has been terrific from this. I mean, and I think what was interesting is that so many of you spoke in a very positive sense about the true effect that this could have on the community. And I will tell you, when looking at the times that we lived in, when other draft or when other ordinances were adopted, we didn't have all the laws, we didn't have all the policies in place, we didn't have human resources department in place that really protected our residents. As council members, we also see now where there are other holes, and that is connecting individuals to services and connecting service providers into either funding or to the community. And this is where I think this organization could be instrumental. And there's no end to this, and you would have, it's a very, in my view, having seen this with arts and culture groups, which is a very gratifying thing to know as a commission or an organization that you have helped that make these connections.
Great.
Does that explain the timeline to you, Chair by Chair?
It's somewhat of a timeline.
It is,
without really assigning any specific.
Well, this is as specific as we can get because we have to make
Well, and I
sure.
think that's fine. I think the commissioners need to, and the public need to understand this is gonna be a lengthy process going into 2025. Is that not a correct statement?
It will,
It will most likely, because we have one, right now, we only have one council meeting scheduled in November, and in December, that is.
Just one in December, and that typically is usually largely ceremonial. Sometimes there is some business conducted in December. But yeah, we're getting close to the end of the year.
It would, but I think that is also okay, because you will have a new council that can weigh in on it. And that's.
So my next question specifically to the two of you and the chair is I want in this public forum for you to articulate exactly what this commission will be allowed to do between tonight and the time that we have a new ordinance that's gone through second reading and adopted by the council. Can we return to normal business?
Well,
Can you lift this pause that you imposed on us?
My opinion is these two council members cannot, it was a council action, so it would be a council action to undo it. That's.
I would say that although you have used this word pause, you are actually, your new business is pause. Your business in sort of rewriting the ordinance of whether it becomes a human services commission or remains human rights is actually operating. This is the only new business, and this is what we described at our council decision, is redefining this commission. And that is, I think that is really good work. I'm sorry if that seems confusing to you.
Well, it is confusing. So what are we gonna do in November and December and January and February?
so at the November meeting, we are hoping that you will have the staff report that's gonna come to us at our November 14th meeting. So that way you're able to review the staff report, provide robust comments, just like, and then we will be able to take those comments at our November 14th meeting and incorporate them into the direction that we provide to the city attorney to draft the ordinance. Once that ordinance is drafted at your December meeting, hopefully, that would be brought to you and you would be reviewing the text of the new ordinance and providing feedback. Then that would come back to us at our January meeting, we would be voting on it, and then they would come back at the next January meeting for the second reading. Usually those second readings are on the consent calendar and we approve them again. So this is very good work that you have lined up for November and December in continuing this process of adjusting the ordinance and discussing these different proposals that we just talked about.
Thank you. Any
Well,
further comments?
Okay,
Any?
I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical that you're gonna adhere to
That's fine, that's
this.
fine.
I'm skeptical that, so it sounds to me like tonight we have to put on the agenda a review of a staff report, which hasn't even been, which may or may not actually be, staff may be directed to produce.
Your agenda continues with this discussion of the listening section of the new ordinance, because by that point, you will have a staff report, and next one you should have a draft ordinance to be working on. That will further this process along. And I'm sorry if this doesn't seem, it doesn't seem like it's enough for you, and certainly if this is not a commission that you wanna serve on, you don't have to, I mean, you know, it's not, you're not being required, but I believe that this is actually very positive.
So would not a more practical path forward be to take the work that we have already done to amend and improve the municipal code and start with that?
You can
Where did that
certainly-
go?
You can certainly provide that to us.
Yeah, so here's how the process, you can provide that, absolutely, and
Maybe that's
council
what we should do. We did a lot of work to look at the municipal code and improve it.
and
So maybe that's a good starting point. I'd also like to hear from the two of you, specifically in the powers and duties of the commission that's in the statute right now. What items, if any, do you think you might retain? Have you read the powers and duties of the commission?
I think, so let me just clarify, we have to go recommend this to council, and council has to, we cannot decide this on our own.
I'm asking for your opinion as the subcommittee representing the city council. You came to this commission and said, we are the subcommittee. We are the representatives of the city council. We are here to listen to how to rebrand this commission. And I'm asking for your opinions on which, if any, of the current roles, duties, and powers of this commission you think are worthwhile retaining in anything going forward. It's a fair question.
Sure. So first of all, I don't know that I ever used the term rebranding, so I just want to be clear on that.
I didn't come up with rebranding. Commissioner Councilmember Holstage called it
So
rebranding.
we are the subcommittee working on this. We don't necessarily represent all of their views. That's why we have a council discussion on this. As we go through and determine we get the council agreement on what this commission is, then we can determine what the rights and duties are. It's hard to do rights and duties without having a ordinance, and I'm sorry if that's.
But I'm sorry, any other organization, a subcommittee, would go back to the full committee and say, we recommend you consider this. So I'm asking you again, respectfully, Mayor Bernstein and Councilmember Garner, what duties that we are currently performing based on today's code do you think are worth retaining going forward? And I'm happy to give you an example that I think is very important, and like a simple, yes, that's a good thing this commission should do going forward. Do you believe this commission should support and participate in activities which bring together various factions and viewpoints on emerging issues in a way that will help the community to resolve the issues which arise with change? Do you feel that's a worthwhile thing for this commission to do going forward? And will you retain it? Will you recommend it be retained in the code?
Can I intervene? The code is, I have it up here.
I have it right
Okay.
here.
And it's large. A lot of it has to do with defining domestic partnerships.
I'm not talking about that.
I know, but I think to be able to pick apart the code and as it describes duties and responsibilities, without having legal and having our expertise of people who are writing these ordinances to go through and then ensure that there's a description of what is meaningful activities. I think that's being tabled to the legal people who are looking at the ordinance. I don't think it's fair to take section J as a quote and then ask them if that's going to be included. I think that would be part of the larger discussion after the November 14th.
Yes, that is correct. That's how it would work.
Well, I respectfully disagree.
It's no-
I can't believe you can't read a single statement which is in the statute and be able to say, yes, I think that's a worthwhile function of this
So I
commission.
think it's part of a whole global thing, that's really how it works, and I'm sorry if that's, if you don't know.
Alright.
But this will come back, I don't know if there's any other comments, but this is the plan now, you've asked for a speedy moving forward, that is what we're doing, we really appreciate the work, and I know this is not an easy or necessarily clean process. This actually takes real work and thought. This is a unusual situation to have an entire commission's ordinance rewritten, and it takes, laws take time, ordinance take time, code takes time.
This code was written in 1992, or at least edited. Fast forward here 30 years. I think there's the contemporary codes that are out and available probably need to be incorporated and to be considered in the language, my opinion.
So is everybody, any other comments on this? Because this is how it move forward. You will have more time for input, but this is how we can make sure there's a real timeline to move forward.
It's time to move forward.
Okay? You have to.
Yeah, I know.
But I do, the only other things that you really have are the parades and the regular meeting, and I'm sorry, I do have to go, because I had originally planned this earlier. I am available for anybody to reach out to me directly, and certainly, city attorney, city chair and staff as well, or the members of the public. I've spoken to many of you, I'm happy to continue to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So moving forward, with item B on the discussion items is the status of regular meetings for October 14th, 2024 and November 11, 2024. What is the discussion point here?
Mr. Chair, both of these meetings fall on city recognized holidays.
Yeah.
So next Monday is a holiday and then November 11th is Veterans Day, so we need to determine if the meetings would be canceled or if we want to reschedule for a different date.
So based on the previous discussion, it sounds to me that we would have to kind of follow the council's lead on when the staff report is available so that we can schedule probably a special meeting to get the group together again. Previously reviewing the staff report, come prepared to provide our own personal commentary to the report. So I think that would be the logical way to move forward with these meetings without having to say we have to meet on this day or that day. That would be my recommendation.
So what, I'm sorry, what are you recommending?
Recommending that we have.
We have an opportunity to read.
The staff report is available.
Once we have the staff report,
There's no point
we
to
read it.
in next week.
We schedule a special meeting.
At some point in the future?
November, some point, I assume from what the council.
I would like to make a substitute. I'm gonna go forward and make my substitute motion to adjourn till January of 2025. I just don't see any point.
So normally that is a motion that's non-debatable, but we lost the quorum at least temporarily. We might want to wait until Commissioner Arias is back.
Is he coming?
He's coming
I
back.
assume from the fact that he left his items there that he's coming back.
I'm happy to wait.
To be clear, the remainder can still discuss items, they just wouldn't be able to vote. on
Okay,
motion.
so
Other things we wanna
while we
talk
wait
about.
for that and Commissioner Remus to be back here. I think that the simple question is with regards to the parades, and we know that there's Veterans Day Parade and Pride coming up. And I think the question is, for commissioners, if you feel so inclined to participate in these parades.
What are the dates of those parades?
Pride is November the 3rd,
Second.
the
No,
2nd.
I'm sorry, you're right, the third.
The 3rd is the parade, it's always a Sunday,
Okay,
and our Veterans Day parade is on Veterans Day.
Monday, the 11th.
You know, traditionally, we have participated in these parades and got together in March. We had a better group last year, but 2 years ago we didn't. I know this is sad, but I was the only person marching on Pride 2 years ago. So that's kind of like the question.
Pride is November 3rd.
And I'll be very honest and upfront, I'm gonna take a break from parades this year. I have to deal with so many other things.
I too will not be participating in any activities.
I can, I'm available for the Pride Parade November 3rd. Anybody else is?
I think you're wrong, to the table, we don't figure out what the heck is going on.
I would agree.
Mm.
I think it's,
I
yeah.
think that, you know, and what the commissioners are look like in considering the commission. Who's continue.
So it'll be easy for us to, once Bobby comes back.
Mhm.
The motion,
Yeah, we have a, I think you're going to all that in here, that we should have a special meeting when we have something to respond to,
that will be my recommendation.
which is what David's issue is, but there's not one of me, we're gonna have something to do.
I think it's important for us commissioners to have input
Oh, very much.
into what's happening, so I
And
to suspend all meetings without having our voice being
Yeah.
incorporated into the meeting.
But on the other hand, I think David has felt, what is it, that's no point in our doing meetings and doing absolutely nothing. So if we have a meeting or there's something for us to respond to, we have time prior to the meeting to ignore it, so we can come back and have
Sure.
a valid discussion. I think that would be the next step.
So I am moving to recommend that we have the opportunity to read the staff report and schedule a special meeting for this working group based on the availability of the report. That's gonna be my recommendation, and I wanna know if anyone's against this recommendation, and we can just take a vote on that.
Is that a motion?
I'm moving, yes, this is my motion, hopefully someone can second.
I
it.
second.
Commissioner Ranky, thank you. And if there's no further discussion.
So say what your motion is again?
My motion is to wait until we have the opportunity to receive the staff report so that we can schedule a special meeting and be prepared to bring our comments, our individual commissioner comments.
You can, so if this, again, I don't have, while the mayor and I are the subcommittee, has been a priority of council to move this forward. I don't see why this would not be moved forward at this meeting tomorrow. So if we're asking for it to be agendized for our November 14th meeting, then that means the staff report would be available as early as Friday, November 8th. Your regular meeting was supposed to be on November 11th. You could simply move that to November 12th. The staff report would be available. You would have had since Friday to look it over before your Tuesday meeting. And then you could have that meeting on November 12th. We would then be able to have a live presentation on November 14th meeting to supplement what this commission discussed with the staff report that we will have on November 14th.
So if the staff report is not produced, or council decides to go in a different direction,
We would know tomorrow and we would be able to update this room.
and would we then have to, what would be the process for canceling the Human Rights Commission November meeting? Since the only thing on the agenda would be a discussion of the staff report, which in this scenario would not be available. Would the chair simply cancel the meeting and advise the commissioners that it's not being held?
Most bodies would say if you don't have a quorum who are interested in coming to a meeting, then we would find that out and then, yeah, it would be canceled. If you do have a quorum that wants to come and meet and go over that agenda item, then quorum could be there.
And this would come as an invitation from our staff liaison, right? That the meeting that's planned for that date, and then we'll seek from the commissioners the interest of participating and bring
That is correct. I'm aiming for, if I heard correctly, November the 12th.
November the 12th.
Yes.
Okay. So can we take a vote on that for November the 12th for a special meeting?
So
A special meeting or a regular meeting?
Regular meeting, yes.
To enable with the only agenda item to discuss the staff report.
Staff report.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we have a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand, say aye for the record.
Aye.
Okay. Okay,
We vote.
he's abstaining.
I'm abstaining.
And then finally is a participation for other forthcoming breaks. It sounds like there's only a few who might be interested in marching. I'm, for the record, we're not going to participate in breaks for this season.
For anyone who does want to participate in the parades, you're always welcome to join with another group as well.
Okay, so do we have to take a vote on this as well?
Nothing to vote on.
To participate or not? No.
No vote on there, but going back to item 9B, we did not address the October 14th meeting. We want to cancel, I mean, the meeting
Yes,
falls on a holiday, so we are saying
no to that.
meeting.
Yeah, because we don't have anything substantive from the report to react to, so let's cancel October 14th. And keep the November 12th. For regular meeting. Okay. So, any final comments or requests from commissioners?
I'll just say. Yes, I would like to make my final comment. I was prepared to. Say that this would be my last meeting, because I. Just don't see the point of staying on this commission. If we're not allowed to return to normal business to include elections of chair and vice chair. To perform outreach programs, to discuss initiatives to engage with the community. And I'm still skeptical of this timeline. I appreciate what you said, Councilmember Garner. I guess the proof will be what the council directs the staff to produce and when. Because every time, at least I have seen direction from city council to city staff to produce a staff report, it doesn't always have a specific deliverable date. It's like we direct city staff to do something, come back at a future meeting. So it'll be interesting to see when we actually see the staff report. And then what comes out of that staff report specifically, what's the code gonna look like? Because that's what I'm gonna look at in determining what it is this commission will do going forward and whether I want to participate in that. And if it's, the details matter, so I'm really looking forward to the specifics as to what council directs a future human services, human relations to do, and whether it waters it down or just has some real meat to it. So,
I would like to maybe counter that. I'm optimistic. I think that we're on the cusp for redefining what we do, how we do it. Beginning with the ordinance, we have the support of the council members. Most cities, I think one city that you had presented, Commissioner Loyola, had dispensed with the Human Rights Committee entirely, commission, yeah. But I think that there's enough standard of practice, if you will, out in the California communities to have some kind of a commission, Human Services Commission. There's another term, I believe. I think we're on the cusp again of redefining and resurrecting something, activities of value. So because it's not on a tight timeline, I really would urge you to continue on with this process.
well, I'm gonna stick it out for another 2 months, but quite honestly, Commissioner Rinke, we can't, if we're having this conversation, or if there's not something tangible in the Palm Springs Municipal Code in 6 months, then somebody's not doing their job.
Thank you very much, both. Thank you very
Put
much
on notice.
for your comments. Any further comments before we adjourn? If no further comments, this commission will adjourn to a regular meeting scheduled on Tuesday, November 12, 2024. Thank you very much, everyone.
I appreciate your optimism. Oh,
Yeah. So
I hope you're right. We'll see.
I think we've got this.